In today's lecture, I would like to clarify that this series of lecture on medieval China has got very little to do with the discussion of nuanced details. It rather uh, intends to provide the audience with a general framework. It rather provides a broad overview or an outline so that one can think of putting in the small and nuanced details into this general framework to strengthen the argument, to enrich the discussion with details. So, the purpose of this lecture is to provide an outline and a general framework so that one can think of. So, in terms of time line or temporal framework, or in terms of spatial framework regarding the boundaries, regarding the different geographies of the China, uh, we get to know that China, uh, which we discuss, is not the China of today. It was highly fragmented. For example, uh, there was a spatial division and spatial disaggregation. So North China was way different from the southern geography, and the West China was way different from the Eastern China. In fact, so much so that the one region would uh, consider other as the opposite, and so there was a process of othering, and there was a process of looking upon the other as uh, as an antagonistic force. So it was so until later on, when all these regions became integrated and the differences between them, they actually become highly blurred, and then there is a process of integration which is always underway. So we have to see China through this prism, through this lens, rather than considering China as if it was readily integrated and readily available the way we see China's today. So this is very important for us to understand. So China was very unlike today's China. It was very fragmented, and it was through the process of integration via different dynasties that China became unified, and it became a very large territorial and political and administrative entity. So thousands of years go into making China of this kind. So there is a process of making, unmaking, and remaking. That is why whenever there was any element coming out from uh, the designated limit or geographic limit of the China, there was some sense of opposition to such element. That is why when the Mongols came to occupy China and rule over it, the local uh, political powers and the elements viewed Mongols' presence with lot of suspicion, with a great degree of antagonism, and this ultimately resulted in the overthrow of the Mughal dynasty, which was followed by the Min dynasty. So Min dynasty, in other word, was a restoration of indigenous uh, or say Chinese system and culture. That is how many of us tend to see at this event. That is a transition from Mongol dynasty to the Min dynasty. So there is a dialectic of dynasties also. So there is a, it's like the succeeding dynasty is seen as opposed to the preceding dynasty in some cases, and in some cases the succeeding dynasty tends to appropriate the preceding dynasty. So it is not always antagonistic. On occasions there is also a degree of cooperation and there is a degree of very positive transaction between one time and the other time, between one dynasty and the other dynasty. So we must see this transition from one dynasty to the other dynasty using this dialectical framework, whether it is on a competitive footing or on a cooperative footing. So it's not of one kind, it is of both the kind. And this becomes obvious only when we look at this transition with care, and we try to give these examples of competitive and cooperative tendencies across dynasties in the course of transition using the examples. So it is for this very reason that, be it medieval China or modern China or contemporary China, one can always notice that it's not a complete departure from one time to the new time. It is rather the continuation of the old into the new. That is why China, on the whole, remained very archaic in one sense, because the age old values remained so deep seated and deeply entrenched into the consciousness and in overall social, cultural, and political practices, that they could never be done away with. So this is very important to bear in mind, that we may, for our convenience, divide Chinese history into this uh, very popular frameworks like ancient China, medieval China, or modern China. But this is not, these temporal frameworks do not do the justice. For the simple reason that the old continues into the medieval and medieval continues into the modern. So we must reconsider this framework, but for our convenience, we can keep this framework just for the ease of discussion, for the ease of understanding, but to develop something better or something new, we must actually go beyond this general framework, which has its own error and the fault lines. So we will continue with more discussion in the series of videos. So thank you for watching, and keep watching and keep supporting. I will keep sharing more videos.